Hello, I'm Jeff with Kasteel Property Management. In today's video, we're going to be talking with Lonnie. Lonnie is one of our experts that we like to refer to. I was just telling you before we started the video, I'm really glad that you and I met, because what you do is really, really important, I find, for investors. If it's done wrong, it can be bad, and it really needs to be done right. So tell us what it is that you do, Lonnie. What?
Yeah, so we handle the 1031 exchange, which is a maneuver to not pay taxes on the sale of investment real estate. So, as you're managing, your renters and owners, investors, and they are looking to sell property, if they're interested in reinvesting in other real estate, then the 1031 exchange is kind of a no-brainer. We're the qualified intermediary that allows them and helps them to complete a 1031 exchange and defer the taxes that they would pay if they simply sold investment property. It just doesn't make sense to sell, pay the taxes, and reinvest.
So a 1031 exchange is, let me just kind of recap. So a 1031 exchange is when an investor wants to kind of upgrade their investment property, but they don't want to cash out necessarily.
Sure.
Right. If they cash out, they get hit with the taxes of cashing out.
Yeah. Once you receive proceeds from a sale, then you are going to trigger a taxable event. We'll get calls from people, a week ago we sold. Did the money go to your bank account? Yes. Well, then you have a taxable event. Well, I haven't touched the money, but if it hits your account. So one of the benefits or one of the tasks of a qualified intermediary is we kind of step into a seller's position and receive the proceeds from the sale and shield them from receiving the money, and then they'll direct us to acquire the replacement property. But yeah, and there's many reasons people use the exchange. They might want to move from a property that's older to newer, or from one neighborhood to a better neighborhood. We see all different, or from one state to another state. Lots of people migrating from California to Texas or Tennessee, or to Utah for say. We've seen this. So anyway, lots of reasons. But the 1031 exchange, the real important point is people just don't want to pay that tax that they can save for themselves and invest into another property and make more money for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's an important point where it if you did just sell it and have to pay the taxes, obviously you have less funds to reinvest. Your ability to expand and grow is crippled in a sense. Whereas if you can put off those taxes, and then you can keep reusing that money. And so is this a way to avoid paying taxes?
Yeah, good question. And just piggybacking on your thought, the 1031 exchange client who's using the 1031 and deferring the taxes and reinvesting is always going to be ahead of the person who sells, pays taxes, and then maybe reinvests. And it's a deferral of taxes. If you exchange into a property and 5 years down the road decided to sell, then you would pay the taxes that you have deferred by virtue of the 1031 exchange. But we also suggest swap till you drop. And that means, we've worked with clients that have been exchanging for 20 or 30 years. They just keep kicking the can down the road. When the exchanger passes away, they leave the property for their heirs, and they get a stepped up basis in the property. So they could sell the property the next day after the parent or the exchanger has passed away and sell the property. And all the gain that they deferred goes away, at least the way the rules are today. So swap till you drop. Just keep using the exchange. There's no limit. And so we just work with people who continue to just push that down the road and use the exchange to go into multiple properties and to really increase their investment portfolio.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the name of the game. When you have the more real estate, you can keep growing. That appreciation is working for you as your growth keeps happening. And if each time you move from one property to another, a slice of it gets taken out, obviously your growth is just a lot slower.
Agreed.
So, and I guess it's an easy process, right? The IRS just makes it super easy for you. You can just check a few boxes, or
Yeah, well, I mean, there's
That was
tongue in cheek.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not too bad. I mean, if you get a qualified intermediary, I had a phone call today. Well, this is my first time doing it. I'm like, okay, we can help you through, because really, I tell people, if you can list and sell a property, which you do pretty much in a normal transaction, if you can find a replacement property that makes sense for your investment needs, and we meet the time frames and kind of the dollar situation, then we handle the rest of it to make the exchange go perfectly. And so it's really a function of timing and being able to find a replacement property. A lot of times I tell people, you have a property that you're holding and you know what kind of return on investment you will get. Can you find something else that motivates you to take those dollars and go reinvest? Can you get better rents? Can you get a better location? Can you get less maintenance, or whatever your motivation might be? But really, we coordinate with the title company that's closing your transaction. We gather information. We are kind of the driver of the transaction to make sure that the paperwork is all in place and the time frames are understood and kind of the rules are understood. We're not legal counsel. We're not their tax advisors per se, but we've handled 18,000 exchanges, so we really know most of the pitfalls and can guide them and direct them in a kind of a best practice scenario of what they need to do. But it's really, I think it's one of those that bark is worse than the bite. It's not too difficult as long as you get with the right qualified intermediary who will help you through the process and ask questions. And really, I try and educate people as to what the rules are. This is how it plays out. This is what you need to be aware of. And armed with appropriate information, then they're able to really move forward with the exchange and understand the rules. And most of the time successful, unless they just don't find a property because the market might be tough or difficult, and they just haven't found a property. But I'm gotta say we complete at least 97, 98% of the transactions. Not our call, but that's probably most of the clients end up, they don't want to pay the taxes and they usually find something.
Yeah. I like that they can call and talk to you and see where they're at and get advice, because I personally was involved in a transaction years and years ago where the 1031 company basically just sat back and watched. And as deadlines passed and as things didn't happen that were supposed to be happening, they would kind of show up after the fact and go, "Oh, that's too bad," and that causes a lot of problems. So it's nice to know that again. That's why I was glad that you and I met, because to have somebody that's a little more involved, somebody that gets in touch with people, makes sure deadlines are being met, or at least that people are all completely informed.
Yes.
And then then what they do with that information, of course, is up to them. But
yeah, good. I mean, we pride ourselves. I was just mentioning to you, we talked to one of our exchange clients yesterday. She said, "You guys really do a good job of getting back to us and calling us." And I kind of was chuckling. I said, "That's how business works. I mean, you have to have conversations and be able to, communicate with your clients when they want to talk to you. You got to get with them." But I think we do a good job of that. And the information that is provided, I think, is very well laid out. Especially you're probably referencing, time periods, your 45, 180-day time periods, 45 days after closing. You have to identify a replacement property, and then 180 days total to complete your exchange. And so that information is given in a manner that's, I think, presented well. People have to, follow those rules, but we certainly will give them and make sure they're informed and be very transparent. Because I tell people we like having you as a customer. We want to work with you again, because we know a lot of times investors are going to turn properties over. And so we always feel good when we worked with someone 3 to 5 years ago and they call, "Hey, we're back to you again."
Yeah.
So we try and really facilitate the process and help them to understand what the requirements are. We also, kind of part of our presentation after they've sold their property, is, hey, what does a fully tax deferred exchange look like? Well, you got to spend all your equity, you got to replace debt with new debt, and basically buy property that's equal or greater than what you sold. It could be multiple properties that combined or do that, but also in kind of our presentation of identifying property, we go, okay, this is what a fully tax deferred exchange looks like. You can add your numbers here and kind of pencil them in and see how you're doing.
Yeah.
And they can call us too, but so I just like to make sure that they get appropriate information so they understand the process. If we haven't, somehow had that conversation before, they're going to get it a couple times to just reinforce what they need to do to have a fully tax deferred exchange. I had just a gentleman I was working with in Hawaii buying a property, and he spent X amount of equity, and then he said, well, I'm going to, take my $800,000 out that I, put into the property originally. That's not taxable, right? Because I put it, it's got to reinvest all your dollars. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we went over that, but again, he's got time to, he'll find another property. But it's interesting. You just want to make sure that everyone's informed and knows the rules.
Yeah.
And don't assume.
Yeah.
Everyone's different and has varying degrees of investment, knowledge. It might be a first time, it might be someone, oh yeah, I've done this, and kind of get the deal. So.
Yeah. I think you as you talk about a lot of deadlines and rules and do's and don'ts and things, it's easy to get lost in it. And I think it comes down to like what you mentioned at the beginning was to just check with you first. Right? If you're going to be doing a transaction, or you're even thinking about doing a transaction, talk to your property manager, your real estate agent, your loan officer, your 1031 guy, and just know, get it all together so that you're getting all the right advice from actual professionals instead of 2 weeks later coming in. Yeah, I sold it and this money's been sitting in my bank account. Can I, at that point it's too late. It's like, no, sorry.
Because we get that call constantly. I mean, at least 5-6 times a month, probably, at least once or twice a week. Where,
wow.
Hey, we took the money, we just closed last week. Are we okay? And it's always, we're a day late and $1 short, unfortunately. It's a tough one. People are disappointed. I just didn't know. I thought I could do it this way. I didn't know I needed you.
Yeah.
You did.
Well, and that can take hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes out of their next transaction that they would have otherwise been able to keep moving on.
Yeah.
So.
I think one time we had someone that we had in the conversation, they had about $1 million of gain, and they were too late in the process. So they'd taken the money. I mean, it was going to be like a $250,000 hit.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, that's, most of the deals probably less than that. But I remember that one was kind of, you're like, holy cow. After you got off the phone, you're like, oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, any of these, if they, sometimes we'll kind of go over scenarios of, hey, what does your capital gain look like if you sell? And we'll go over rough numbers. I said, if you want a stone cold, straight up number, go sit with your tax advisor. They have figured out kind of what your basis in the property is because they're calculating depreciation off that. So they're going to know, what your number looks like. So we can kind of pencil it, but if you want a straight up number. So yeah, I like it when people call and say, I'm just getting ready to list my property and I wanted to kind of understand the process, and then they'll circle back to us. Right. Being a little more informed. Yeah. And it's very important that they have all of their professionals in their mix so that they can, make the right decisions and make informed decisions. I always tell people I like that you have information so you can make an informed decision because you'll make the best decision for you. At least now you have knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. As a property manager, it does help when somebody that's thinking about getting into property management or gets into being a landlord talks to me first and calls me and says, so I've never been a landlord. I'm considering it. We're thinking about buying this house. What do you think? And because there's, same thing. It's like, let me give you the information so that you can start out on the right foot because there's some houses that make good rental properties and there's some houses that don't make good rental properties. Yeah. And a lot of times people make the wrong assumptions because they're new to it. They don't know.
And they don't have the experience, and so they can go to you and get that experience, and so they don't have to learn.
Right. Yeah. So it's not like, well, I just bought this house, and you're like, well, now we got to take care of this problem and this problem and this problem, and just know this will be an ongoing problem with that house.
Right.
And
Right.
and then it makes me think, if I don't know if you ever come across it with any of your clients, if they ask, or if it comes up, what is a good rental property? What kind of property should I be looking for to move my funds into? We have a video that's called "What Makes a Good Rental Property" on our website. I can share it with you later.
That'd be great.
So,
that would be good, because sometimes people, we're the middleman, so we get conversations. They want sometimes guidance and direction that way, and I usually say, look, I'm not boots on the ground. And I'm not day-to-day pounding the pavement to see what makes the most sense as far as a replacement property. But I said your best, person would be someone who's in the market,
right,
and knows, what makes sense. And you need to find someone who's really good and who can help you there. Because I said, if you're really asking me, I can see trends. I can see they're going here to there, those kind of things in general.
right.
But my focus is completing 1031 exchanges for clients versus really being out there and looking at the market and knowing, where the buys are, where to go, and so you're not getting good advice if you're asking me that. I mean, I'll give you my 25 cents worth, but it's not as good as
your
a practice.
expertise.
No.
Yeah, and same thing. 1031 is not my expertise, and so that's why I like to, get the professionals around. And so, and even if anybody that's not in my area, like I cover Utah County and Salt Lake County, but it's the same information if somebody in Florida needs that, or
it's
wherever.
good. That would be a useful tool for us.
Yeah. So, so tell me, where do you cover? What are your clients?
So we do a lot of, I would say, most of the owners of the business are scattered throughout from Salt Lake down to St. George. So we have good connections with title companies, et cetera, that give us referrals. But the majority of our business, probably 75, 80%, comes off of advertising on Google. We get Google ad, responses.
Nice.
So that leads us to New York, Florida, Texas, Colorado, Utah. Like I said, strong referral base. But we're all across the United States handling transactions. So,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, really, people don't understand, but with using electronic signatures, et cetera, I can close a deal as quickly with someone in New York City as I can if you're sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes it's a hurdle to jump over, but we have pretty good references that people can, check up on. We can kind of point to people in those areas that we've done deals with. So we're nationwide.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. So, I didn't want to cut you off. Do you have anything else? Otherwise, tell us, name your company, your website.
Company is 1031 Pros, and our website's my1031pros.com. We do have good information. If people have any, we have a general information packet that people can call and request. I have seen books of 1031, exchanges that might be, 25 pages long. I think it's a little bit too much information. I like giving people a little bit of information and having them call, and then we can have a conversation about what's going on. But besides that, I mean, we've probably collected, information on 50 kind of general questions that you will see that will come up from time to time. And so if you and I had a conversation about your 1031 exchange and there was relevant information that I gleaned from our conversation, I can follow up with an article or information that would help them to understand that particular topic. So I've been in the business long enough to know I haven't seen everything, even though I've seen a lot. There's every once in a while someone will come up with something and I'll go, I hadn't considered that.
There's always something out there.
But we're members of the Federation of Exchange Accommodators, which is a national organization of qualified intermediaries. Our banking relationship was with Capital One Bank, which is a strong bank. We're insured, bonded, and we have great references if people want to check us out. And people will have a good experience working with us. And our goal, like I said, is always to have them come back and work with us again. And I think we accomplished that goal many times. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Lonnie. So Lonnie with 1031 Pros, my1031.com.
My1031pros.com.
My1031pros.com. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And at Kasteel Property Management, we do more than just watch your rental property. We protect it, cultivate it, and help your investment grow.